What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the intern today. Today's video is best win now players to get. So here's the thing with a lot of leagues. I think depending on the league you're in, depending on how your team is, there's a lot of different variances that you could see for rankings and how lists might be different with opinion. I think that's just human nature at the end of the day. But when you really think about it, are you as a winning team going to want somebody that's a little bit of a project, or as a losing team that you know you're going to take a few years? You would want those losing players rather than a win now player. That is the video we're doing today. Today for those winning teams, I have to admit, me myself in my Dynasty League, my main Dynasty League that I'm in, I'm a win now team, and these are players that I would personally even look to get because they're so cheap of contracts with maybe some situations in a year or two that's kind of muddy, don't know what's going to happen, but you can get them cheap depending on the team that you're going against. For example, if a lot of these teams have rebuilding teams that have these players on them, they'd be willing to throw in a lot of, maybe some picks to get the players, something like that, so they can tank a little bit to upgrade themselves in a year or two. That's a thing that I think a lot of teams did. I personally did that last year where, I think it was the year of Wemby I tanked. I got a lot of picks back. Worked out very well for me. Traded a lot of that to really get, I think, like at the edge of playoffs, right into playoffs. And then this year I look like I'm going to be destroying some teams here soon. So let's get started with, make sure to go join the community at Fantasy Sports Advice Network. You can go on the web. You can download the app today. I know there was a lot of football content on there. There's a lot of football, basketball, and baseball content. A lot of suggestions. Maybe if you want to start some players, potential leagues to join, whatever it might be, join my little group, The Intern, to see when videos come out. You can watch videos there. You can watch videos here on YouTube. Maybe you're watching it actually on there. If so, what's up? Make sure to comment on some stuff. But yeah, let's get started with LeBron James is going to be the number one, I think, that everyone's going to think about. I'll give you a little story for this for myself. When a team decided in my league to rebuild, I obviously jumped on the thing. The thing with LeBron is that there's going to be some question marks with the future. Of course, Father Time is running out of time, truthfully. It looks like it's going to be 2 years till LeBron retires. I think this is not his last year. I know there's been hints recently. I don't think this is last year. I don't think next year is it, but it's a big possibility, I'll say, depending on how the Lakers do this year. And then after that, I think it is going to be the retirement year of LeBron. I'm just going to be truthful. So with that in mind, LeBron is somebody that I don't think rebuilding teams would want. When you look at a rebuild, they're probably looking at 1 or 2 years. I think, truthfully, LeBron James is somebody that works out very well when it comes to all categories, maybe not turnovers, but is one of the top fantasy players in redrafts every single year. But when it comes to just in general, how he is as it's LeBron James at the end of the day, people want young players. They'll take young developmental players from him. For example, for my rebuild, I jumped on that situation. I traded Josh Giddey for LeBron James straight up. Now, in my opinion, that's pretty close value when you look at Josh Giddey and the possibilities of this upcoming year. There's a big potential for him to jump, but there's also a little small area where he could be potentially with the Bulls. When you look at LeBron James for a rebuilding team for 1 or 2 years, if anything, it's just going to hurt your team to potentially lose rather than help the team at the end of the day. So, of course, the deal goes through. LeBron James is going to be that player that will help you win now, and I think is on a cheaper side rather than not. Up next, we have Jusuf Nurkic, another player that it kind of goes sneaky every year in fantasy, I've realized, with his rebounding ability, with his field goal percentage ability, even somewhat blocks in a sense, not really a big shot blocker in my opinion. Jusuf Nurkic is somebody that is going to get you points, and I think that's the biggest thing, is that with his ability, like I said, to rebound, there's guaranteed points there. They're maybe not as big of a ceiling and low of a floor, but he has a high floor, low ceiling, and I think that's the biggest thing, that is consistency. And I think with a Suns team that's going to need Jusuf Nurkic to really step up for next season because of a low-key disappointing season from last season, I think Jusuf Nurkic makes a lot of sense for this team. and 4 being a win now player for you. I don't think that a lot of people look at Yusuf Nurkic and go, that's one of my untouchable pieces. It's more likely they'll trade it for a pick or something like that. So Yusuf Nurkic is another player that I'm willing to say is going to be good for win now. Up next, we have Nikola Vucevic. A lot of question marks, I think, when you look at Nikola Vucevic's future and what he could be. And I think that's why a lot of teams I've seen in just dynasties in general want to trade him and want to throw him away somewhere. Nikola Vucevic looks like he could be playing on the Bulls next season, but with his contract and the market kind of being dead for him right now, doesn't look good. And if something does arise, it looks like could be on a cheaper deal for him to just get pushed somewhere so the Bulls can tank, whatever it might be, which is going to be interesting because I think if the Warriors get Nikola Vucevic, we're not going to see prime Nikola Vucevic. If a Nikola Vucevic goes to somewhere where he's the 4th to 5th kind of person getting the ball in his hands, we're not going to get the Vucevic we're going to get on the Bulls. But for a win-now team and not being on a rebuild team or whatever it might be, people will sell low for a Vucevic. I don't think that this is kind of a situation where they're going to sell on you high and you're going to have to buy in right now because Vucevic is at an all-time low. I think a lot of people are question marks for his future, but truthfully with how it's been, you don't really see Vucevic leaving you till maybe halfway through the season. I think trade deadline is a sense that the Bulls might be like, we need to really push everyone. And if that's the case, Nikola Vucevic is honestly primed for a kind of, good role for the Bulls with DeMar being gone. Why would you not take him to potentially help you get those early wins that you're going to need later on in the future for basketball? Up next, we have Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler's a big, interesting one because we look at future again. A lot of these are futures when you look at what's going to happen next. Jimmy Butler, Miami, is he staying? Is he not? Big question mark entering next season. Jimmy Butler, though, is still going to be Jimmy Butler. I don't think he's going to be quitting basketball here soon. I think if anything, he maybe retires in 3 years. I think there's 2 to 3 years of good Jimmy we still have left before everything hits the fan. I think Jimmy Butler on the Warriors would still be a good Jimmy. I don't think that there's a lot of players that would, or a lot of teams that wouldn't make Jimmy Butler not be good still. And for that reason, I feel like I have to just agree and be okay with Jimmy Butler coming in. You see on my rankings that I'm not high on Jimmy Butler, and it is because of that feature. There's a lot of things that there's a big question marks with contract situation, how he plays during the regular season, injuries, of course. But when you're looking at the grand scheme of things and you're trying to think, what production can I get in the next 2 years? Jimmy Butler is up there. Jimmy Butler is going to be somebody that is going to be better than and this is just being truthful, an Amen Thompson, a Scoot Henderson, a Alex Sarr even. I mean, this is somebody that is going to go high up there, and I'm willing to take a Jimmy Butler if I'm looking at just 2-year projection than others. Up next, we have Kristaps Porzingis. I've seen recently in a lot of my leagues that he's been getting sold for a cheaper price tag, which kind of makes it just a little crazy. I think everyone looks at the injury history and gets a little scared. Granted, affect me in my rankings for him a little bit, but still at the end of the day, Kristaps Porzingis is still a good player, and his ability to kind of do a lot on the ball with blocks, 3 points, scoring in general, and for a Celtics team that really needs center depth, I'm willing to really like a Kristaps Porzingis that plays at power forward center for the Boston Celtics. When you look at what he might do next season, I think when your league values blocks, I think when your league values rebounds, 3 points, take a chance on a Kristaps Porzingis. He makes a lot of sense for your league. Why wouldn't he make sense to not have him if someone's selling him for a second or something like that? I've seen a lot of people, especially with 2025 looking like this good NBA draft, people will sell on these picks and on these players. I think Kristaps Porzingis is another example of them doing this, and I'm excited to see what Kristaps Porzingis could possibly do. Up next, we have Cameron Johnson. Now, this one's an interesting one, I truthfully have to say, because I think Cameron Johnson, youth and his age, which granted, he was an older rookie coming in, so he's like 27, 28, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's 28. Cameron Johnson's kind of an interesting one because I think when you really look at things, people will value him higher than maybe not. This one's kind of an honorable mention, in my opinion, more than 100%. Cameron Johnson is just still someone that you look at the future with the Nets. Currently, I think he is going to be traded. By the end of the day, I think he's going to be traded. But when you think about what Cameron Johnson could do for a team, what Cameron Johnson could look like for a team, I think you're looking at somebody that is going to be able to provide for you. Maybe the future isn't as good as what you would hope for, but when you look at the short term, is going to still be able to provide on a Nets team that might not look as good. I wouldn't be shocked if I see a trade of Cameron Johnson before something actually happens with the season, but I still think Cameron Johnson is a good and early trade target. Lastly, but certainly not least, Daniel Gafford is here for me. I think Daniel Gafford is getting overshadowed a little bit when you look at Derek Lively. I think Daniel Gafford is the starting center moving forward. They're going to have to split the center position a little bit, in my opinion. But I still feel good saying Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively are these centers that make a lot of sense. When you look at his lob ability with Luka, his rebounding, his blocks, field goal percentage. I think if you really look at field goal percentage, having one of the biggest streaks in a row, Daniel Gafford had it. And I think Daniel Gafford could still have that streak in the future because of playing with Luka. I wouldn't be shocked if we don't see something like that happen in the future. So with that, you're telling me somebody that maybe gets replaced in a year or two isn't going to be good for the short term for you? I might have to disagree. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.